Alright, in this video is an update. The hoses have come in. As you can see, I've hooked them up. And I want to show you some of the other features. Let me get in a little closer here. That I added a little handy hook so I can hook the mask on, and a carrying handle. And the hoses have been attached. As I said, I bought one 6-foot hose and I cut it into 3 sections. 2 feet for the return air, 2 feet for the feed air, and the other 2 feet are used internally, and I'm going to show that to you in a minute. So what you see on the bottom here are standoffs, little rubber feet that I made, and that's so if you want to use this as a desktop unit and plug it into the wall or into your car, you can run continuously and not have to worry about battery power, or to charge the batteries. It's the same circuit. You have that ability, so when you're on a desktop, these little rubber feet will give the ability for the filters to bring in air and exhaust the air. But right now, I'm going to show you those filters aren't yet complete. I'm going to hit this back a little bit. You can see where I routed out manifolds, and these are basically, I don't have any hinges. I need some very small hinges where I'm going to hinge these closed over the filter and close them up, and I'm going to make my own homemade custom filters that fit this. 3 layers, as I'll show you right here. A P100 filter material, then some activated charcoal, and then a HEPA filter sandwiched together. And I'm going to make a fixture for that so I can make up filters for pennies on the dollar. And these will mount here and hinge open. And I can even make an adapter so I can adapt, aftermarket filters or whatever, whatever's out there. So if I find a filter online from somewhere and needs to screw in or something, I can make an adapters for it. But the whole point here was to use my own and keep things low cost. Alright, so I'll put those aside since those aren't ready yet. And let's go around and look at the back. And the way I'm going to mount it is I'm using some suspenders that I had laying around the house. Rather than go out and buy, I wanted to use automotive racing belts. They kind of pull them down and you cinch them up real easily. Those are expensive with a quick release buckle and all that. But for the time being, I decided to hook in some suspenders that I had laying around. Remember, most of this project was stuff I had laying around. The only thing I bought was the mask, the hose, and the fan inside. Everything else has been from stuff I had laying around. So my wife didn't want me to ruin a pair of suspenders, so I bolted them in with little clamps. And then I made this little foam piece so it doesn't rest up against my back and hurt my back. Nice little soft foam piece that just kind of pops in there. It's not perfect yet, but it gets the idea across. Alright, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the back to show you what I have inside. And I only used one screw here. I have a whole bunch of screws around the edge. I'm just going to take off this one screw to get into the back. Bear with me as I do that. Okay. Then we'll take off the back. And what do we have inside? We have the battery that I pulled out of an old automotive battery charging pack. This is a 40 amp hour. It's pretty decent size, current, ampacity, as we say, for its size. And there's the blower that I bought online. You can see the hoses. So I hot glued the hose in place. I don't have a 3D printer, so I had to use hot glue, and again, that's stuff I had laying around the house. And there's a little adapter behind here. You can't see it, but that adapts this into the intake of the fan. And you can see what I call 3D printing, so to speak. I made my own adapter out of hot glue. You just have to be a little patient. It doesn't have to look pretty, but it's totally sealed, and it adapts to the hose, or to the pipe. And I color-coded these, and that little scrape there, but the green for the intake and the yellow for the exhaust. And I'm going to put, I tried to paint these, but the paint didn't stick to the rubber too well, so I'll put green tape and yellow tape. And this is a little wider, so even in low light, you can see that the wider stripe will go with the wider stripe and the thinner stripe. So even if you're not colorblind, you'd still be able to make the hoses line up. So what else do I have in here? Here's the output port for the 12 volts, or input port. It goes in either way. You can actually use this as a 12 volt battery backup source. And I got a little fuse there that I pulled out of a old microwave. I'm going to mount that over here eventually. And you got the Arduino Uno with the power switch. And that's pretty much the insides. These just kind of float inside. And these areas are reserved for when I'm going to put in a high voltage electrostatic filter. It's basically little veins of plastic with electricity on high voltage, and it pulls particles right to the plates. And then beyond that, it'll be a little area where I'll have ultraviolet. Now, I did find an ultraviolet bulb that's about this big that I use in my pool or my hot tub to sanitize it. It was rather big. I couldn't find anything smaller. So if I do go with ultraviolet, I might have to make this a little bigger and put the ultraviolet tube here, and the input and the output will share half of the tube. That's another engineering thing. So I wanted to get this thing should work fine with just plain old mechanical filters, but electrostatic filter and an ultraviolet filter on the input, and then on the output there'll be another ultraviolet and another electrostatic with some filters on the output. So in case I'm infected, I don't affect anybody else. So that's pretty much the insides, and I'll turn it on. I don't know if you heard that. It takes about 5 seconds. It performs a little self-test that I wrote. I wrote all the code that the Arduino's running here. And in this particular mode, it's in constant fan mode. So it's pumping air into the mask so you can breathe easy. It's pulling the air through the filter, and then you're exhaling out through another filter. But I have different modes where I can use this as an emergency ventilator. I can increase the speed of the fan dramatically and force air into the lungs to help you breathe if you're already ill with something. So it can be used as a home ventilator as well. So originally this wasn't going to be portable, but I decided to make it portable. But I've got that nice little handle there now, which makes it easy for carrying. And you can see I still have to put on the USB connector, which is going to connect directly to the USB port on the Arduino. And eventually I'll put a little switch behind there. The whole point is to make this waterproof. Eventually I'll seal it all up so it'll be nicely waterproof, so you can run it in the rain if you have to. But there'll be a little button here you can push a paper clip in and reset the Arduino, and the USB to talk to the Arduino. And this is the man-machine interface, which I am going to move up here. This is going to go to a connector on my chest where I can control all the features. I was thinking about putting another Arduino in there, but I think I can run the wires back and forth. So the man-machine interface is going to move up here, so if I'm sitting in a car and this is against the car seat, this is not rubbing up against it. And then I have to put in my 12-volt charger. This is the one I got from my garage, which I use. I got a couple of these out, and I got them from Harbor Freight. They're inexpensive. I prefer American-made, but in this case, I had to use what I had. And I use these to keep my tractor and my Mercedes charged up over the winter. So that way I don't have to, worry about the batteries going dead over the winter. And this will be mounted inside, and then I'm going to get a connector here so you can plug in a power cord, and that'll turn this on and be able to charge the battery. So I'll be able to charge the battery through 120 volts or 12 volts, or run the unit off of 12 or 120 volts, and I can actually use this as a 12-volt source. So if I need a 12-volt emergency power, I can use it for that too. So that's pretty much it. Put all the pieces that I have left to do here. So when I get the green light from my wife to say, yeah, we can go out, and I'm going to go to the hardware store and see if I can start ordering some filter material and go out and get I'm sure I can get everything I want online. I just want to get out of the house. This is working enough where I can do it. So I hope you like it. Don't forget to like or subscribe. I'm a new channel, and if there's anything you want to see, don't hesitate to write to me, or romsk22@gmail.com. Happy to help you, and I just wanted to show you what I was doing. It's probably not something you want to slap together. It took me all week to put this together, a few hours each day. But mostly working with what I had at home. Just a little ingenuity. So, thanks for watching.